I've been using my webcam on my laptop and it's not that great. So I'm going to try to buy a $120 webcam. All right, let me save up for that. All right, cool. Then you want to change your backdrop. Then eventually you want to have a Facebook group. And then maybe you want to have a mailing list. Then we want to make sure we're improving the Facebook group. Then we want to make sure we're improving the mailing list. And eventually, everything is better. But this is a never-ending process. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I know I'm going to look a little bit different on YouTube because I am in the Airbnb in Maryland, Virginia, wherever I am, because I am at Podcast Movement 2024. But as you know, I am committed to making sure we drop an episode every single week. So here we are recording, and I thought it would be valuable to go to Podcast Movement, figure out what I'm learning, and then be able to bring that back to you, because I know not everybody has the opportunity or the circumstances or the privilege to be able to travel to a podcast conference, and it's not cheap, especially the tickets. I think the tickets are several $100s, so it adds up very quickly. Okay, last week for episode number 112, we talked about the 5 things I look at when someone isn't growing as much as they want. Today for episode number 113, my thought was why doing the bare minimum isn't enough. So I literally texted Alan, my business partner today and the co-host of NLU, and I said, one thing I'm learning, not necessarily based on anything that anybody said, it's just more hearing stories and hearing where podcasters are and hearing podcasters' goals and all of that stuff. I said, one thing we have to remember is we could never, ever, ever just be doing something. What do I mean by that? So there are a lot of different ways to cut up your content into micro content and then put them on social media. And there's Opus Clips, there's Riverside FM has a way to do it. There's all these ways to do it. And what they use is they use AI to get those clips. I think that's really good for someone who has never learned how to video edit or does not have the funds to hire someone that can do that for them. I think it's a really good low barrier to entry product to increase the quality of your show and the quality of your social media and the quality of your marketing and all that. The thing I said is we can never just do that because we do have the resources, we do have the team, we do have the awareness. I won't say we have the time, but since we have a really amazing team, we have more time technically because they're doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. Shout out to the amazing team we have. But there's a line in the sand where if you've never done video before, you doing it like I'm doing it right now is good enough in the beginning because it's high enough quality to be valuable enough to be on a platform, YouTube, hypothetically. But eventually, as you learn more and you grow more and you evolve more and maybe your finances change, your circumstances change, your seriousness changes, how seriously you're taking this endeavor, this podcast. Maybe it goes from a hobby to something you really want to do full time. You're not going to be able to just do the bare minimum anymore. Again, a lot has changed over the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years of podcasting. When I started, you could just throw stuff up on social media and the conversion rate was probably much higher than it is today. It's not really like that anymore. Yes, in the beginning, you don't really need a website, but eventually you're going to want one. So this will probably be a shorter, quicker episode than normal just because this was what was on my mind the most. We've talked about this before where we talked about ideal versus realistic. Ideally, you would do this. Realistically, this is where we're at, right? Ideally, you would have a really nice audio setup and a really nice video setup. Realistically, and today's a really good example, there's definitely an echo in this room, and this is the best place I could find to shoot it because the kitchen is very small. The bedroom is really big, but I don't really want the bed in the background. It's just not a great visual. This is a one-off because I'm on the road, and it's more important to me to do an episode that's 7 out of 10 quality than miss an episode. But if I was doing this every week, eventually I'd get a shelf and put it up here. Or maybe I'd get a light in this corner. Or maybe I'd get a ring light in front of me so there's no shadows or whatever. A different camera. Probably not, because the iPhone camera is really good. But if you are a podcaster who is interested in growth, you're going to have to level up the quality of everything you're doing in time. Now, it's not going to be right away. It's not going to be one episode and the next one's going to be 100% better and 100% better. It's not going to be that. But that's really what I'm seeing is a lot of people at this conference are doing the bare minimum, which is really good in the beginning. My question is, how many of them are actually going to level up incrementally? Because I'm realizing that's one of the biggest differences that we have. And again, I'm not pumping our tires or I'm not trying to pump us up. But when I look at other podcasters that we kind of came up with, they're kind of doing the same thing they were doing 5 years ago. And we're doing things so much differently than we were a year ago, never mind 5 years ago. I'm convinced that's one reason we had more growth. I made a note of this today in my notebook. I said, where are there places that I am treating podcast growth you like next level you? Next level you is different work. It's not the same as it was 5 years ago, but I'm only 2 years into podcast growth you. So I have to do things for the 2-year-old version versus the 7-year-old version. It's drastically different. So even I am potentially guilty of this. I won't say I'm guilty of it because I'm trying to catch it, and I'm always trying to get better, and I'm working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, right? But I am guilty of this too. I'm trying not to be, but I'm more guilty of this than I want to be. But that's the thought. Awesome. I think we talked about this. We talked about sustainability, consistency, improvement. Sustainability is you being able to do something and say, I can do this. This is realistic. This is something that I can actually do. I'm going to start with bi-weekly episodes. So every other week, I'll do an episode. Cool. So that's sustainable in the beginning. Consistency is you being able to do that for a long enough stretch of time. And then the improvement is, okay, how do I improve based on what I'm doing? So how do I improve the 2 episodes a month that I'm doing? When all of that becomes sustainable, then maybe you go to weekly. Then you say, I'm going to do an episode every single week. When that becomes sustainable, maybe you go 2 weeks, 2 episodes a week. That's kind of how this is supposed to grow. But if we fall victim of, I'm doing this good enough for too long of a period. Good enough in the beginning is awesome. Messy action in the beginning is awesome. I think messy action is always good as long as the improved action is there too. Don't just take messy action to take messy action. Take messy action because you're prioritizing momentum over something else, and take messy action with the understanding that the messy action will help you improve. That's really what I wanted to touch on quickly today. Because the sad truth is, a lot of those podcasters in that room are going to do the bare minimum, and they're going to hope that they get far better than bare minimum results. And truthfully, they're just not going to. Most likely, they just won't. Because it's easier now than ever to produce high-quality audio and video. So you can use your iPhone, and mics are, this mic was like $70, and this is an older mic, but still, I would say very good audio quality, all things considered. But now everybody has the opportunity to produce the same level of audio and the same level of video. So what can you do to improve what you're currently doing? Because if you just ride the current that everybody else is riding, you're most likely not going to get ahead. So this is where getting creative is super important. Maybe it's worth you learning video editing. Yes, I know Opus Clips and Riverside, and there's a bunch of different places that can do it for you. I know. But everybody else also can do that too.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and I'm host of the Business of Happiness podcast. When I met Kevin and Alan 2 years ago, I had no idea of how much impact they would have not only on the success for my business, but also on my life. They've given me enormous perspective and true strategies, true tactics to take in my everyday business plan and in my life plan to make an even greater success. Kevin and Alan, thank you so much. I couldn't even begin to express my gratitude for all you've done for me. And if you're looking for similar mentorship, I highly recommend these incredible experts at the Next Level University.
Yes, Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and Tim Hortons and whatever other coffee shops are, Honeydew, yeah, they all make coffee, but they all have different experiences with their coffee. Dunkin' Donuts is maybe more blue collar. Starbucks is maybe more white collar. Tim Hortons, I think, is more, it's a Canadian thing. Honeydew, I don't know. I think Honeydew might be like a New England thing. So I'm not saying that you're going to do something completely different, but when everybody has access to the same tools, you have to find a way to differentiate yourself with your skills. I remember I used to think this very often. Anybody on the planet that has access to it can go to Home Depot and buy a hammer. You can buy a drill, you can buy a saw, you can buy nails, you can buy screws. That doesn't make you a carpenter. Everybody has access to the same tools. That's not what sets carpenters and builders apart. It's the other stuff. It's the way that they do things. It's their attitude. It's their pricing. It's their delivery. It's their systems. It's their consistency, whatever it is. That's really what I'm talking about today. So in the beginning, do the bare minimum to make sure you're actually doing it. But do not forget to incrementally improve as you go, because if you don't do that, unfortunately, I've seen this happen too many times. Unfortunately, you get frustrated that you're not growing, and then you quit. When in reality, everything has to improve. You can go to the gym once a week, and then eventually maybe it's twice, and then maybe it's 3 times, and maybe it's 4, and then you improve each workout. So you get more out of the 4. And then maybe you work on your nutrition. And okay, I'm still doing 4, and I'm trying to do 4 really good workouts, and I'm working on my nutrition. Awesome. That's an improvement. Now I'm going to focus on drinking more water. Awesome. You go from 1 workout a week to 4 workouts a week, tracking your calories, drinking enough water, weighing yourself, whatever, getting enough sleep, and it's a completely different life. Same thing with this. In the beginning, you start a podcast. And maybe it's audio only. And the next big domino for you is, I'm going to try to get this on video. Then you do that. Then you say, I bought this mic in the very beginning because it was $20. Let me save up for a more expensive one. Maybe like an $80 or $100 mic. Cool. Awesome. Then you say, all right, cool. I've been using my webcam on my laptop and it's not that great. So I'm going to try to buy a $120 webcam. All right, let me save up for that. All right, cool. Then you want to change your backdrop. Then eventually you want to have a Facebook group. And then maybe you want to have a mailing list. Then we want to make sure we're improving the Facebook group. Then we want to make sure we're improving the mailing list. And eventually, everything is better. But this is a never-ending process. Yesterday was a very stressful day because there was so much going on in the business. And I was talking to the podcast production team, and I was talking to the social media team, and we're just reinventing a lot of our systems because we've been running them for a long time, and it's time for an upgrade. So even that, we've been producing podcasts since 2019, I think. So we've been producing podcasts for 5 years. And we're always trying to figure out what's a more smooth way to do this, what's a better way, what's more efficient, what's more value, what's higher quality, whatever it is. We're still doing that too. So this isn't something that I'm just telling you to do. This is something that I'm always trying to do as well. And hopefully you see it. In the very near future, so the Facebook group's already created. I'm working on getting content. Those of you that I know would find value in it, I will start sending invites to people, and I will start putting the link in the show notes for these episodes over the next coming episodes. But that's something. My goal is to get further ahead with recording. So even today, I was going to try to do 2 episodes. I got to listen. and look, because I don't know if this audio and video quality is what I want for the next 2 episodes. So maybe when I go home, I'll hammer out a couple and then we'll be ahead. But one of my goals is to make the video side of this higher production. Maybe it's zooms and changes in frames and stuff on the screen. I'm not sure yet. That's one of the goals. The other goal is to improve the thumbnails. So right now, I'm in the phase of those thumbnails were good. They were higher quality than what I had before. Now I want to find a way to improve those. And it's always that. It's just innovating and having very, very small improvements as you go. So I'm trying to lead by example, and hopefully you will see that over the next couple episodes, yes, but couple months. Maybe by the end of 2024, we'll have all of that in practice. And that's another important thing, is it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to happen to a different degree at a different speed for everybody. It's different for me. I just have to message the team and say, hey, what do you think of doing this? Is that something we can try? In the beginning, it was me doing that, so it would have taken longer, or it would have happened in a different way, or it would have gone on a list, and eventually I would have gotten to it. So we're all at different stages. Last thing, I promise. My fear for a lot of podcasters is they think that they're going to go from where they are to being a shining product without doing any of the small iterations in between. If you know of podcast growth you might not know anything about Next Level You. You might not know we have 1,800 episodes, and you may never go back to episode 75 and see how different it was than what it is today. But those were just very, very small iterations. That's one of the reasons I like doing so many episodes, because I have the opportunity to get better a little bit, very, very marginally, every single episode. Even in this episode, it's a weird setup. I have my laptop down here, but it's not great. The whole setup is not great, but it's a really good opportunity for me to do something different. It's an opportunity for me to get outside my comfort zone a little bit and test out a different way. See what happens, right? Recording on my phone, that's different, but that's what we have to do today. So I'm trying to lead by example in that, and hopefully over the next couple episodes and the rest of the year, you will see that. Okay, if you feel like you are stagnant and you don't know where your time, energy, effort, and focus should go, feel free to click the link in the show notes for a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. And if you know any podcasters who are trying to grow their podcast, please, if you would be so kind, share this episode, share this podcast. Even just sharing lessons that you've learned with them would be super helpful. The best person to recommend a podcast to one of your friends is you, because you know your friends. And if they're podcasters who might resonate with me in the message, I would appreciate that share very, very much. If not, no worries. But I would appreciate it because we're all trying to grow together. All right. I hope you are not letting your circumstances hold you back to the best of your ability, right? Easier said than done. I hope that you're getting that's what I hope more than anything. I hope that you're just getting a little bit better. If you're recording an episode today, do something to make that episode just a little bit better than the last one you recorded. You can't ask for much more than that, because when you do that long enough, things really start to add up. As always, keep on crushing it. Keep on podcasting. And I will talk to you all next week back at the home studio.